code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK. Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK Killer, considers himself a natural-born predator, explaining his urges to murder as Factor X, explaining that Factor X is the name of the demon that controls them. Yikes. Thank you, Dennis Rader. Now, I'm going to go sleep with a gun under my pillow. I'm just kidding. But seriously. Geez, folks. Hi there, and welcome to my channel, All Things True Crime. My name is Misha, and this is my serial killer series. In each video, I cover a serial killer story from as early as I can through to their conviction and or death. These guys often have very sad stories as kids, and I like to explore the effects of nature versus nurture a little bit to tell a story that paints the full picture. If I can make you feel sad for the child who then eventually becomes the killer and then make you feel contempt for the adult murderer scumbag, I feel like I've done my job. If this sounds like something you would enjoy, please subscribe to my channel, All Things True Crime, so you'll be notified of new videos as I publish them. So this guy is so obsessed with the name he gave himself, BTK, and with wanting national attention. I would have loved to be one of the cops interrogating him and, accidentally call him like the BLT killer or something. I actually, when I was making this video, I almost said BLT on accident. So that's where I was like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. Good for the blooper reel, right? BLT killer. The dummy. Okay, so Dennis Rader is born March 9th, 1945. In either Columbus, Kansas, or Pittsburgh, Kansas. He provides both locations in different interviews. He grows up in Wichita and is one of 4 sons born to his parents. His mom and dad both work long hours, paying little attention to their children. Rader often feels ignored and neglected by them, especially his mother, which eventually grows into resentment. That's really hard because children need parents' attention. That's really important. So as a little boy, Rader finds himself daydreaming about torturing women, specifically trapping them and rendering them helpless. These eventually morph into sadistic sexual fantasies. His outlet as a young boy is zoosadism, which is when someone gets pleasure from animal cruelty. I didn't know what it was called until now, but so he likes to torture, kill, and hang small animals. In this case, I think nature is playing a larger role than nurture. I mean, Mommy-O and Daddy-O weren't around much, but that doesn't really just turn someone into a serial killer. He clearly had some other issues going on. There's a whole generation of latchkey kids. And yeah, they're not all murderers, right? That's ridiculous. So, especially since he later admits that Factor X is a demon controlling him, I think nature is perhaps at play more than nurture. Nurture fans the flame of crazy, right? Still a young boy, he acts out his sexual fantasies by peeping through autoerotic asphyxiation and cross-dressing. He spies on female neighbors, dresses in women's clothes, including women's underwear that he has stolen, and finally, he binds his arms and neck before pleasuring himself. His sexual fantasies will pop back up during his murder spree as he will take pictures of himself dressed in women's clothes while wearing a female mask. He later admits he was pretending to be his victims as part of his fantasies. That's kind of weird, right? I'm kidding, it's super weird. One of the most surprising things about this gas bag is that he kept all of this super well hidden. The community he lived in regarded him as a polite, normal, well-adjusted, well-mannered guy. It's crazy to think about the things that people can hide. I think we often consider serial killers to be someone who you could spot a mile away, right? Like super obvious physical outward signs that they're doing something horrible, like, murdering people. But BTK kept it under wraps really well. Kind of like, reminds me of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Except he knew what he was doing, but I just mean he was such a different person when he wasn't doing it. So, creepy little Dennis kills animals and has disturbing sexual fantasies growing up. Once out of high school, He attends Kansas Wesleyan University, where he gets mediocre grades and drops out after his first year. He then joins the Air Force in 1966 and serves 4 years. After he gets out of the Air Force, he moves to Park City, which, is a suburb of Wichita, Kansas, by the way. He lands a job at a Leaker's IGA supermarket in the meat department, same place his mom worked as the bookkeeper. So Rader marries a lady by the name of Paula Dietz on May 22nd, 1971. They have 2 children together. Shortly after, he enrolls in Butler County Community College in El Dorado, Kansas, where he earns his associate's degree in electronics in 1973. After this, he enrolls in Wichita State University and graduates in 1979 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Administration of Justice. So, a criminal justice degree. That's very interesting. They often say there's an overlap, like serial killers like to be educated on the law and that kind of thing. So what is his motivation for learning about the criminal justice system? Was he already planning his murders, or had he already started? Let's find out. Starting in 1974, Rader works at the Wichita offices of ADT Security Services. The home security people. He works here until 1988, and then before this, he was an assembler for the Coleman Company. What's interesting, though, about his job at ADT is that he is installing security systems for homeowners who are having them installed due to BTK being on the loose. Isn't that chilling? Inconvenient for him. He also holds a position as a census field operations supervisor in 1989, leading up to the 1990 census. In 91, he takes a job as a dog catcher where people recall him being super strict, overzealous, and harassing of single women. Again, weirdo. So now that I've laid all of this out, let's go back to 1974. January 15, 1974, in Wichita, Kansas, to be precise. It's on this fateful day that 4 members of the Otero family are murdered. Husband and father Joseph, age 38, wife and mother Julie, age 33, son Joseph Jr., age 9, and daughter Josephine, age 11, are all strangled to death. The bodies are discovered by the 3 remaining children, who are at school when these murders take place. Later, when describing the victims' horror and despair during the murders, he says that the mom, Julie, begged him to spare her family, and before he murdered her, she told him, "God have mercy on you." He also says the 11-year-old Josephine cried out, "Mommy, I love you," when he was murdering Julie. Oh, that's so sad. Knife to the heart. It's worse. I'm just not going to go there. You'll just have to look it up if you want to know more details. I just can't. It's too chilling. He's a scumbag and he deserves to burn. So from spring of 74 through winter of 77, Rader murders 3 more women, Catherine, Shirley, and Nancy. In the early months of 1978, he sends a letter to the television station KAKE in Wichita, Channel 10, claiming responsibility for murdering the Otero family in 1974, as well as the 3 women from 74 to late 77. It's in this letter that he suggests possible names for himself, including BTK. In his second letter, he demands media attention, and in turn, the media announces that Wichita does indeed have an active serial killer at large. In this letter, Mr. Creepo includes a poem called "Oh, Death to Nancy," which apparently is a parody of the American folk song "Oh, Death." It's in this poem that he first mentions Factor X and describes it as some sort of supernatural element. He claims it's the same element or demonic force that motivated Jack the Ripper, the son of Sam, and the Hillside Strangler to commit murder. Not surprising? But no please, right? In 1979, he targets an elderly woman named Anna. She's 63 at the time of the proposed attack and escapes death by coming home far later than expected. He's been stalking her and knows when she leaves and arrives. Well, this time something happens and she's really late getting home, so he just gets mad and leaves. He'll later admit in an interview that he became absolutely livid that she evaded him. He apparently spent hours waiting at her home, but she never showed. He became impatient and left. Good for her. Yikes. So he was not a very patient person, right? So now we jump to 1985. A lady by the name of Maureen is found on May 15th, 1985 at East 53rd Street North, between North Webb Road and North Greenwich Road in Wichita. Rader killed her on April 27th. After her murder, he took her to the church he attended and was president of the council. There, he bound her body in various positions and took pictures. The story is that in preparation of this, he stored black plastic sheets and other supplies at the church. He later dumps the body in a ditch. He had a secret name for this plan, Project Cookie. Okay. That case. So he has 2 more failed attempts. During the stalking phase, these women are alerted to him and file restraining orders. One happens in the 1980s and another in the mid-90s. His final victim, a woman named Dolores Davis, is found on February 1st, 1991. He committed the murder on January 19th. So it's at this time the case goes cold. Rader just stops murdering. I suppose the trail could have gone cold and him still be murdering, but that is unlikely. He had a very unique MO, not something that could be hidden among other murders in the area. Fast forward like 13 years. It's 2004 and the case is officially cold. I don't know if he knows that through contacting law enforcement or if it's just a coincidence, but it's here that he initiates what ends up being 10 or 11 communications to local media. In March 2004, he sends a letter to the Wichita Eagle using the name Bill Thomas Kilman, or B.T.K. The author claims to have killed a woman and includes the date of the crime, photographs of the crime scene, and a photocopy of her driver's license, which had been stolen during her murder. Before this letter, this woman's murder had not been attributed to BTK. The dummy just got himself another life sentence. Walked right into that one, but good, he needs to fry, as I mentioned before. 2 months later, in May of 2004, KAKE, the station, received a letter with parts of a book called BTK Story, Fake IDs, and a Word Puzzle. It's getting creepy. In June, a package is found taped to a stop sign at an intersection in Wichita. It contained graphic descriptions of the Otero murders and a sketch. It also included some material for the same book. In July, a local library receives a package in the book return slot that contains more material, including a confession of a murder that he for sure didn't commit. That was a suicide. So that's super weird. By October of 2004, a manila envelope is dropped into a UPS box in Wichita. It contains index cards with terrifying images on them, a very threatening poem, and an autobiography that turns out to be fake. It's just getting insane, right? In December of 2004, a package is recovered from Murdoch Park. It contains a victim's driver's license and a doll that has its hands and feet bound and a plastic bag tied over its head. He was busy in 2004, trying to get some attention. In January of 2005, he attempts to leave a cereal box in the back of a pickup truck in a Home Depot parking lot. The owner finds it and throws it out. It's later retrieved after Rader mentions it. The surveillance footage puts the person dropping it in the truck as driving a dark-colored Jeep Cherokee. That's the first clue. In February of 2005, he sends some postcards to KAKE again and leaves another cereal box to be found that contains a bound doll. In one letter to police, he asks them if a floppy disk could be traced back to him or not. Now, they say his letters were riddled with grammatical mistakes and incomplete sentences, but I've always thought he had a level of intelligence in order to pull this crap off. However, asking your opponent a question like that, knowing they could just lie to your face and you wouldn't know the difference, seems very dumb. I think he's a little bit of a moron. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad he was caught. But that was a dumb question. The police answer his question in a newspaper ad posted in the Wichita Eagle and tell him it would be safe to send them a floppy disk. On February 16, 2005, he sends a floppy disk to Fox affiliate KSAS-TV in Wichita. He includes a letter, a necklace with a medallion, and a photocopy of the cover of a novel about a serial killer. Of course, the police are able to find metadata embedded in a deleted document on the floppy. It contains the name of the church he attends, along with a last modified by Dennis. Gotcha now, you gas bag. Through additional investigative work, they determine a man named Dennis Rader attends the church and is president of the church council. They also drive to his house and see the same Jeep Cherokee parked in his driveway that was seen at the Home Depot when the driver tossed the cereal box in the back of the pickup truck. Strong circumstantial evidence, but they needed more. Clever, they obtained a warrant to test a pap smear taken from his daughter at the K-State Medical Clinic. DNA results show a familial match between the pap smear and the killer's DNA they had obtained from underneath the victim's fingernails. This is enough, and Rader is subsequently arrested. When asked if he knows why they want him downtown, he replies, "Oh, I have my suspicions why." At this point, really the crap hits the fan, and every alphabet agency descends on his home: Wichita PD, KBI, FBI, ATF. They find what they need, and a press conference is held where it is announced that BTK is arrested. On February 28, 2005, he is charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. There is some rumor he may have murdered more / confessed to more, but not really sure. It seems perhaps unlikely. His bail is set to $10 million, and he is assigned a public defender. Rader remains silent at his arraignment, but pleads not guilty to all counts. This is on May 3rd. By June 27th, his trial date, he changes his plea to guilty, describes the murders in detail, and makes no apologies for any of his actions. I wonder if he realized that this was his only chance to, share his side and prove he did it. Victims' families make statements at his August 18th sentencing. In his response, he apologizes but spends 30 minutes rambling on, very strangely. Definitely a psychopath. He's sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences, a minimum of 175 years. Kansas did not have the death penalty at the time. They do now. He is serving out his time at the El Dorado Correctional Facility, a maximum security facility. For his own protection, he is kept isolated in a type of solitary confinement, only allowed 1 hour of exercise per day. He's been a model prisoner and has been granted privileges like access to television, radio, and magazines. What a creep. I hope he hates being isolated with his thoughts and his demons, right? Literal demons, factor X. It's creepy. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Serial Killers. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, All Things True Crime, so you won't miss my next video. The next episode of Serial Killers is all about Hamilton Howard Albert Fish, aka the Gray Man, aka the Werewolf of Wisteria, aka the Brooklyn Vampire, but wait, there's more, aka the Moon Maniac, and finally, aka the Boogeyman, an American serial killer, cannibal, child molester, and rapist who murdered at least 3 children between July of 1924 and June of 1928, but was a suspect in at least 10 murders during his lifetime, and claims that his victim count is over 100. Until next time, stay safe.